This record shouldn't exist. There was no official reason for it to be created. It wasn't part of an investigation. It wasn't a report. And it definitely wasn't a warning. It was just generated automatically, stored automatically, and then archived, all without a single human ever looking at it. According to the system that produced it, nothing abnormal ever occurred. But we know better. The location is an industrial logistics zone, miles from the nearest suburb of a mid-sized city. Think sprawling warehouses, empty loading docks, and asphalt lots stretching into the darkness. There are no houses here, no late-night pedestrians. Before this event, and after, there were zero reports of anything unusual. It was a dead zone. And that's exactly why what happened here is so terrifying. The system that recorded everything was a standard environmental monitoring network. Its job was simple, almost boring. Every 30 seconds, it would take a snapshot of the atmosphere, temperature, pressure, how much dust was in the air, and any electromagnetic noise. For years, the numbers it collected were predictable, stable, staying within very narrow, expected margins. And then came the night this record begins. At first, everything was normal. The readings were completely unremarkable. A slight change in the wind, a little electrical interference from a nearby power line. Everything was well within acceptable limits. Business as usual. At 2:17 in the morning, the system logged a fluctuation. It was tiny, so small that it didn't even trigger an alert. The kind of thing that happens all the time. And just like it should, the value corrected itself in the next 30-second cycle, back to normal. But then, at 2:80, another fluctuation. This one was a little bit larger. Still, nothing to worry about. It was within tolerance. These systems are built to ignore minor blips. At 2:19, things changed. The correction didn't happen. The value didn't snap back to where it should have been. The system kept logging data. But the numbers, they began to drift. Not a sudden spike or a dramatic drop. It was gradual, slow, almost imperceptible. It was as if the very fabric of the environment itself was being quietly, methodically The temperature dropped by less than 1 degree. The air pressure increased by a tiny fraction of a percent. The amount of particulate matter in the air started to rise, but there was no fire. No dust storm, no identifiable source. Taken individually, each of these changes was meaningless background noise, but when you put them together, they started to form a pattern the system was never designed to understand or interpret. It could only record. By 2:23 a.m., the electromagnetic noise levels had climbed high enough to finally be logged as an official anomaly. The system flagged it internally. A little digital note in a vast sea of data, but it was programmed to take no further action. It was just a data point, after all. Then, at 2:25, the sensor array registered something new, something it didn't have a name for. The log entry reads, "Localized spatial inconsistency." There is no official definition for that term. It's not a measurement the system was ever programmed to understand. The label was generated by the machine itself, an artificial intelligence trying to find the closest possible classification for something that shouldn't exist. So, what does localized spatial inconsistency actually mean? According to the raw data, the sensors were reporting values that were physically impossible. They were logging measurements that simply could not coexist in the same physical space at the same time. It was like measuring the temperature of a single spot and getting both boiling and freezing. It was a paradox, written in data. And the system, it didn't stop. It didn't crash. It just kept recording. It saw the impossible and just kept doing its job, logging the breakdown of reality one data point at a time. The record continues. The drift accelerates. The temperature continues to fall, now by several degrees. The pressure climbs higher. The electromagnetic noise is no longer just noise. It's a deafening roar in the data, screaming across all frequencies. At 2:28, the particulate density spikes 2 levels you'd expect inside a sandstorm. Yet the air on site remains visibly clear according to security cameras that were, for some reason, unaffected. The monitoring system is measuring a ghost storm, a physical event happening on a layer of reality its sensors can barely perceive. The data becomes a chaotic mess of contradictions. Up is down, hot is cold, present is not. At 2:31, a new term appears in the log, another one generated by the system's struggling AI, vectorial collapse. Again, no definition. It's a term of pure desperation from a machine trying to describe the raw data streams from the individual sensors become completely It's as if each sensor is no longer in the same location. One sensor might be reporting conditions consistent with being miles underground, while another, just inches away, logs data that suggests it's in the upper atmosphere. The physical array of sensors, bolted to a steel mast, was now occupying multiple, mutually exclusive environments simultaneously. This wasn't just an equipment malfunction. Every diagnostic check the system ran came back green. All sensors were online, calibrated, and functioning perfectly. The problem wasn't with the machine. The problem was with the space it was measuring. And then, at 2:34 a.m., for a duration of exactly 47 seconds, the data streams from all sensors flatlined. Not to zero, not to an error state. They all locked onto a single, repeating, and completely nonsensical value. A digital mantra. It was a number that had no place in atmospheric science, a value that couldn't be produced by any natural or man-made phenomenon. It was an impossible signal. What happened in those 47 seconds? The system doesn't know. It only recorded the echo. At the end of that interval, the readings returned, but they weren't the same. They didn't snap back to the chaotic state from before, and they didn't return to normal. Everything reset. Instantly temperature, pressure, particulates, electromagnetic noise, all of it returned to the exact baseline values from before the very first fluctuation at 2:17. As if the last 17 minutes had been completely erased, the system continued its routine monitoring. Every 30 seconds, a new data point. All normal, all stable. At the end of its shift, the data was bundled up and sent to the archive. The anomaly flags from 2:23 and the AI-generated terms buried under terabytes of routine information. Nothing to see here. Move along. But the record is still there. A silent, automated witness to a 17-minute period, where the laws of physics took a brief coffee break in an empty industrial park. It's a ghost in the machine. A set of impossible numbers that tell a story we were never meant to read. A story about a place where reality itself became inconsistent. And the most chilling part, we only know about this because of a random data audit years later. How many other records like this are out there, sitting in forgotten archives, waiting? What other impossible events have been quietly logged by machines that do you and know? They're re-staring into the abyss. It makes you wonder what's really happening in all the empty, unobserved corners of our world. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed diving into these strange and unexplained stories, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. Let me know in the comments what you think happened at 2:25 a.m. Until next time, stay curious. It's 2:30 in the morning. Deep within a highly secure facility, a monitoring system is doing its job, watching over a specific, undisclosed location. Everything seems normal. The instruments are humming along, recording data as they always do. But then, something changes. The data streams, which usually fluctuate with the natural chaos of the world, suddenly stabilize. Temperature and pressure readings lock into place, holding perfectly steady even as the outside environment shifts. This shouldn't be possible. It's like a photograph freezing a moment in time. But this is live data. The oddities don't stop there. The electromagnetic noise, normally a random hiss of static, begins to form a pattern. It's not a simple rhythm, not a repeating beat, but something structured and complex. It's a signal, but one nobody can decipher. And then, at 2:31 a.m., the most impossible thing happens. For a fraction of a second, one of the sensors registers a negative spatial displacement. In simple terms, it reported that something moved backward in space, a concept that defies our understanding of physics. The system, however, doesn't panic. It simply overwrites the value in the next data cycle, logging it as a minor correction, Not the universe-breaking anomaly it was. No alarms, no alerts. Just a quiet digital shrug. 3 minutes later, at 2:34 a.m., every single sensor in the network does something they have never done before. They synchronize. Imagine hundreds of independent clocks, all ticking at slightly different rates, suddenly striking the hour at the exact same millisecond. This synchronization suggests they are all connected to a single, shared reference point, a central conductor leading this impossible orchestra. But the system was designed with no such central point. For precisely 4 minutes, every measurement across the entire network changes in perfect unison. Every rise, every fall, is mirrored across all sensors, moving together in a silent, coordinated dance. Then, just as abruptly as it began, it's over. At 2:38 a.m., everything snaps back. There's no gradual return to normal, no slow decay back to baseline. The values simply revert to their expected, chaotic ranges, as if nothing had ever happened. A minute later, the system performs a routine self-check. Every component pots, all systems are marked as fully functional. At 2:40 a.m., the recording for this period ends, automatically archived into the vast digital library of the facility. The data was perfect. Perfect. Gears. Go. Beat. This strange 4-minute event is buried under mountains of mundane data, completely forgotten. It was never reviewed by a human operator. It was only by sheer chance, during a routine server migration, that a technician stumbled upon this bizarre log file. They ran every diagnostic imaginable, trying to find an explanation. Was it an equipment malfunction? A power surge? Some unknown environmental event? The answer to every question was no. The equipment was fine. The power was stable. There was nothing in the external world that could account for these readings. The most unsettling part of this story: the system that recorded this event is still active today. It's still monitoring the same location, tirelessly collecting data, second by second, and according to its continuous logs, stretching 4 years after that strange night, nothing like this has ever happened again. But that single, archived record from years ago tells a different story. It serves as a silent, chilling testament to a time when the rules of reality were briefly suspended. It proves that something did happen. We just don't know what it was, or if it will ever happen again. Thanks for watching. If you enjoy mysteries that science can't explain, make sure to subscribe for more.